What's
Hey.
going on, everybody? It's your boy Danny the Bull here with Ryan from Vivi, social media manager. Thank you for coming on the channel. It's FA, anyone from the team on the Danny the Bull channel. So I want to thank you, man.
Yeah, thank you for bringing me on, man. I've been following you for a while now. You kind of came out of the woodworks. Like I didn't know about you before, but then I started seeing your perspective on things, and I love your take. And I think you have a really balanced perspective. It's clear, it's concise, and I really appreciate you, man. So thanks for letting me come on.
Yeah, and for those maybe that don't, aren't as familiar with your whole journey, I wanted to start there because before you worked for Vivi, you were just a member of the community, and I would see you. I know you had your own podcast, right? The Drop. Um, and why don't you tell us a little bit about that, how you got started in digital collectibles and your whole journey?
Yeah, man, I appreciate the question. That's awesome. Thanks for asking it. So I guess the what brought me into the space, right, is I love digital things. Like I look at the future in a digital from a digital perspective because I think everything's eventually going to be digital. And so the idea of blockchain technology, NFTs fascinated me, and I was looking to get into NFTs. And so I started to, look on OpenSea and look on some of these other platforms, and for me it just felt very dark webbish, like
Yeah.
scammy, right? And so I was looking for an alternative that would fit me better because I'm not a maxi in the blockchain or crypto. I'm more of like a digital art type of guy. So I was looking for something a little bit safer. And then I was on TikTok and I was just trying to learn more about NFTs and get perspectives from people. And one of these guys said, Disney's dropping their first ever NFTs on this platform. So I went into Vivi. I saw the augmented reality. I saw the collectibles they had, from the Todd Batman statue to these golden moments that Disney was going to drop, and the capabilities of putting them in a showroom, of buying and selling on a marketplace, of having a profile, creating community, things like that. And I was just blown away. So that's really what I was like, man, this is the future. Like, this is what there are going to be tens of millions of people doing this on a daily basis, buying and selling digital assets and collecting them for well into the next generations of people. And so I just saw it as a way to get in early and understand it. And so I would just became passionate about it. And so I started making content. I started just engaging with the community, meeting people. And then that happened. And I was like bought in, man. Pairing the technology, the IP, and then with the community of people, those things came together, and it was just like a no-brainer for me to be all in. So that's kind of a little background.
And how did you link with the team? Was like application put out or like, and then you just applied?
Yeah, so I just had there were there were job listings for the
Mhm.
position I'm in, and Noah was the previous person in this position, and now he works for Ubisoft. But that position kind of opened up, and I was talking to Alex a little bit in DMs, and he threw the application at me to see if I knew anybody that might be open to the position, because I'm in the like the digital marketing world, right? And that's in a lot of ways what this person was supposed to be.
Mhm.
And I kind of just told him, like, this is what I do for a living. This is like what I've been doing since I was 12 years old, was designing things, doing digital art, marketing, things of that nature, and then professionally for like 12 to 15 years. And so when he threw that application, I applied and went through the process, and here we are today.
Yeah, it's got to be a dream job for you because you're combining like, one of your passions with your work.
Yeah, I wake up every day and I can confidently say I don't work a day in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for that, man. It's a blessing. And I'm
It's
just really passionate about it. I believe in it. I think it can radically transform businesses when you do it right.
Yeah. Now, you guys were just at San Diego Comic-Con. Was that your first con event?
Yeah, man. I was that was the first time I've ever been a part of something like that, and it was incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Before we started, you were talking about how tired you are from you recovering physically and from the whole process, because you guys work nonstop at those events. Because I've seen it firsthand when I've been to New York Comic Con, I've been to Designer Con, and by Sunday the team is shot. Right, I can just see it in their faces. Everyone is shot because they've been going. It's like 12-hour days every day, and it's a lot. And then they're also like the events at night. So, what was the experience like for you? Getting to see community members come together in that capacity.
Yeah, it's you take the experience of spaces and getting to talk to everybody on there and having that raw feel, but then you just multiply that by 100, man, and then you get to dap people up, you give them a hug, you're like, finally we get to meet, and that experience um, is second to none. And I would recommend everyone, if you can, go to an event, meet the people that you've been talking to for so long on Twitter, Instagram, whatever it may be, because the community really is like genuine, loving people, man. When I went to that event, all I felt was like love, it was just love for people. And so it was a once in a lifetime type of experience. I'll remember it forever. And it was really also eye opening to see just like the dedication people have to what Vivi's built, right? And then it's also very eye opening to see the ways in which new people will come in and they'll just light up when they figure it out. I can't tell you how many experiences I had there where people were walking over to the booth asking, "What is this?" You show them that they can take a picture with Miles Morales jumping in the air, and they just like light up, man, download the app, and now they're a person that's collecting. There was even one story that Vivi Magic just talked about on her interview with David Yu and Dan. And there was a guy that signed up for the app. He bought something that night. He was on the app all night, spent like $1,000 and made it to like Diamond 1 collector MCP ranked. And it's just like, this is the stuff that's happening all the time. And so that was exciting to hear.
That's amazing. Have you noticed like an uptick in users off of on the heels of that event?
Yeah, so there's definitely like a lot more. There was tons of people that like new people that followed the socials that we've been interacting with, and then there's also I don't know the exact data from user signups, but I know the numbers were in the triple digits per day. So there was a lot of people, new users that were coming on.
That's amazing. I also have noticed some coverage on social media. Bloomberg's article on the Stanley dropped, some other publications. BitBoy Crypto's channel was talking about the Stanley drop, and then like people like I think his name is Von Doom, who has like a couple 100,000 followers on Twitter, was also covering it. Is the Bloomberg article and these articles part of the marketing campaign where you guys are putting the word out to these publications and saying, "Hey, take a look at this"?
Yeah, so there are PR efforts as part of marketing, right? Like that's an extremely important part of. Excuse me, I'm drinking a bubbly, so I have a little bit of. That's an extremely important part of like the marketing process is PR, because a lot of these media companies have so much reach, right? And so getting an article in front of them that they would then talk about and release to their audience. Interestingly enough, a lot of these PR pieces aren't necessarily because we reach out; they just kind of pick them up. So I'm not sure what the Bloomberg article, if that was a paid marketing effort or if it wasn't, but sometimes they just get picked up. Sometimes it's a strategy, right? And so it really depends.
Yeah. And what is the marketing plan? Like, do you know anything about we've seen the beginning of marketing this year, which I think a lot of people are really happy about. Is there a wider plan that's going to be coming our way?
Yeah, it's actually massive. So, um, Vivi's like hiring new people every single day, right? And two specifically that come to my mind that are extremely important is there's a kind of like a director of user acquisition now that is every day trying to pinpoint and collect data on how to communicate to those new users that are going to come to the platform. And then there's also going to be a massive push into influencer marketing. So one of the things that we're going to start to do is start collaborating with proven collectors that have a credible audience of people, big or small. And we're going to start to collaborate with them about what Vivi is, what we want it to be, and how we can communicate that message kind of through their platforms. So that person is also going to be coming onto the team here. And so between those two touch points, those are going to create massive reach for new user acquisition. In addition to that, we're working on an ambassador program where we can start to collaborate with community members and bring incentives to them for creating content and things of that nature. So there's like a lot of things happening on the back end that we're building out and making sure like when they're rolled out, they work properly. And yeah, it's really exciting. Like not a lot of people know about that. So I think, yeah, those are two of the big ones right now.
Yeah, I need a light. Can I get a light? Those Vivi lights. It's pretty cool though, targeting the niches. Like, so I would assume that would be like, people like people who cover the physical comic industry or whatever on YouTube, targeting them to help bridge the gap between digital and physical, and like Star Wars fandoms to try to bridge the gap. That's what you mean by
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even taking it like a step further, having a conversation with that person. Maybe they're not into digital collecting, but they're a collector in the physical world, right? Having a conversation with that person, pitching them what Vivi is, trying to get them to see it, and then creating a collaboration. That's like a really strong use case for the proof of concept of how Vivi can infiltrate just mainstream society, right? And so the more people we can find who are kind of doing that in their daily life, they have kind of like a creator base, an audience, and things of that nature. We're gonna be going to them, and we're gonna let them talk about Vivi, not necessarily us always talking about Vivi, right? So
yeah, very nice. Because a lot of, Vivi really spread through word of mouth, right? Especially part of the building of this community happened through that word of mouth, and so many different content creators. And that's because I think like the product really resonates with people, and you've got different types of content creators that cover different things, right? Like people who just do drops. Got My Collectibles, who's like true collectibles guy. You got Sleeping Comics, focuses on the comics. Then you got like the whole Omi side of things. So there's really a lot to unpack there.
yeah, there's a lot of different facets, right? I mean, Vivi's very much so. It's not a one trick pony, right? Like there's a lot of things happening constantly, and there's a lot of people in it for different reasons, right? Some people look at it as an opportunity to make money. Some people look at it as an opportunity to collect what they love. There's a nostalgic factor there, which is really kind of what Vivi wants to hone in on, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the people that look at it from a Web3 perspective, where it's crypto focused, NFT, blockchain type of technology. So you have these different pools of people that you really have to pay attention to and listen to and try to understand what their pain points are, so you can effectively communicate with all pools of people. But obviously, as collectors at heart, we really want to unmask these stories of true collectors who are here because they love what is being sold.
Yeah. A lot of anticipation about Veve'S. Did you get to? I'm assuming that you tried the Marvel showroom over there at in San Diego.
Yeah, man, it was. We were really hoping to like share that with the community, so the people back home could see what people were seeing in real life. Unfortunately, we're not able to like publicly share it yet. So if you were at Comic-Con, you had the privilege to, wear the goggles and or the Oculus,
Yeah.
wear it and walk around the Marvel showroom that will essentially be in Vivi. And I will say that was probably, from a tech standpoint, the most mind-blowing thing I've seen to date. And the reason why is because not a lot of people know that when you know how when you click a collectible in your app, it kind of downloads the polygons, right?
Yeah.
Now, if that collectible was its full file size, which is sometimes, gigabytes large, um, that wouldn't be able to download quickly like that, right? So that file is actually compressed, so it will still populate into your app in a decently high resolution format, but it's not the highest resolution it can be.
Yeah.
So what was incredible about the Marvel showroom is when you put those goggles on, those files are their actual size. So they're being streamed in the highest resolution possible, almost like they were sitting right in front of you. Like there's no pixelation, they're smooth, they're crisp. It's like you're playing a video game in 4K or 8K resolution. Like think
Wow.
about the highest resolution possible.
So it's super clear.
Yeah, and that's what you're seeing in the headset. And so when the Veve'S starts to roll out, and it's not just a showroom, but it's actually walking around, setting up your shelves, putting your collectibles in different places, the experience is going to be incredibly, incredibly powerful. It's going to be cool.
Yeah, I can't wait. And that leads to the next question is on a lot of people's minds is when, right? And do you have any, I know it's important to note that you work in the capacity of a social media manager, right? So you're not Dave, you don't have all the information, but perhaps you can give us some insight into, are we getting closer to the Veve'S rolling out?
Yeah, so the first phase of this entire process is getting the beta users' feedback and understanding that feedback. So when it rolls out to all users, it's clean, it's crisp, it's smooth, right? And so still going through that process, we still have to make sure that everything lines up. It's going to work properly. It's going to function properly for those newer people that come in, and there's not going to be as many glitches or bugs that there were in the past that are trying to be fixed.
Mhm.
But I personally can't give a timeline. I'm not sure of the when factor.
Yeah.
But I will say it's coming together very well, and it will be here, right? So I'm not going to put a timetable on it. I will say that I'm excited for it after seeing the Marvel showroom.
Yeah. And when it comes to something like the Veve'S, now I don't get tripped up on timelines because I understand. I'd like, the team to just deliver something that's good, right? And when it comes, on something that's such a big, project or whatever. I just want them to get it right. So if it takes a little longer, that doesn't bother me personally. Any chance that we're going to see some like video updates about it?
Yeah,
I know
that's actually
Alex mentioned it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's actually like the next phase of kind of like releasing content to the audience, to the community, right? And the wider audience of people who don't even know is taking the beta usage of the Viviverse, taking that footage that we record and actually putting it into visual assets that people can now enjoy, watch before it releases, right? So they can get a better sense for what is to come. Now, obviously, they had the demo at Decon last year. This year, if you were lucky enough to go to Comic-Con, you saw the Marvel showroom. But now we're going to start to put that stuff into visual assets that people can actually see in video format before it fully releases and you're able to, experience it yourself.
Yeah. Did you see Mark zoomed in on what you were editing over there? Did you catch that on Twitter?
Yeah. Yeah. So that was kind of one of the things that we were we would have loved to have been able to like share that with the community, right? And let them be in on that, or kind of allow everyone to see what people were seeing in the goggles, right? But it just didn't, it wasn't approved. So we got to wait a little bit.
Yeah. And what's sick about when the Veve'S does roll out, it's going to open up like a whole other level of content creation for, vaultaholics, or, people are into that sort of thing. And, like the on the content side, like as a YouTuber, it's going to grow different people's like channels and whatnot. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you already kind of see it with some different applications, like Spatial's a good one where you're seeing people go in there and play around. But I think one of the great things about Vivi is it has the collector aspect. So it's not just like you're free flown in there. You're going to be able to build a legitimate home with collectibles in it and have people come and see those things the way you showcase them, and you tell stories. So that creates a whole different like level to this entire metaverse aspect of collecting.
Yeah, and to be able to port into someone's like showroom and walk through it, right? Like someone would like a Dr. Profit, if he has someone curate his, his vault, and then you could port. He gives you access to port in, and you can walk around in it. It's a whole other level of collecting and the whole experience. Do you think? How do you think? How can Vivi make the Viviverse sticky enough so that to engage people, to keep them coming back? Because what the showroom is going to be dope, and porting into people's showrooms will be dope. Eventually, people need more, right? So how does this thing grow in order to make it a sticky experience for the users?
Yeah, so I think the most important aspect of this is we need it to be a powerful social platform, right? And it also there needs to be incentives to be in there, right? So eventually getting to a place where, drops happen in the Viviverse, right? And you have to be in the Viviverse in order to go for that drop or get that collectible, right? And so creating incentives for people to be in there and navigating, building out their home, interacting with other people that are collecting, things of that nature. That's going to allow you to accrue certain amount of points per day or whatnot. And then eventually when we can use those points to buy different things for our home and within the Viviverse, like those are the major factors that are going to make it, to your point, like sticky. That's a reason you have to create incentive for people to come in. And so if I want to play a game, I'm going to go on my PS5 and play Call of Duty, right? Like Vivi's different. There's the drop aspect. There's the community aspect. There's the collecting aspect. How do you bring those things together, incentivize people to want to be there? And then that's what you have to just double down on and make the best possible product that you can.
Yeah, Luke mentioned secret drops in Viviverse, and those secret drops at DesignerCon I thought were pretty cool because it gave the people who were there perhaps their first opportunity to feel the excitement of landing a solid drop. And it's a collector's app, but there's also the money side of things, and it's nice to buy something and see it 10x immediately, right? So
Yeah.
a lot of new people over there hit those secret rares, those secret drops?
Yeah, man. I was actually like standing next to a family, and I was like trying to get footage of like the person on their phone, like going for the drop. And so I was watching it happen in real time through the lens of my camera. And this younger guy loaded gems 30 seconds before because they didn't realize he had to have money in the app to go for it. Loaded them 30 seconds, smooth as day. And then pressed the button on Lethal Protector 1 and landed it and had it in his collection.
Yeah.
So it was really cool. And the whole family that he was with landed Lethal Protector #1. So they get to start their digital collection, whether they want to keep that or sell it for something that they might be more passionate about. Like, more power to them, right? That's what it's all about. So I think that was a really cool thing to witness.
Yeah, it's pretty dope. It's a great first experience for people. Shifting gears a little, Master Collectors Program has started this year in terms of people being able to, see their levels, see how many points they've accrued. However, a lot of people are upset because they still haven't been able to like fully, utilize their points and, actually use them. Any updates on that timeline as to whether, when that's going to happen?
Yeah, I don't have a timeline for when spending points is going to happen, but I know that's the phase that's being worked on right now. Excuse me. I know that's like very much so in production. We have meetings once a week, I think, to go over like the way the product's developing and things of that nature. So in the very near future, I'll be able to kind of like see what's happening with that, but I can't
Mhm.
give a timeline just because you know how that goes. If I give a timeline,
Absolutely.
this video is going to be clipped and put out for everybody to see so they can punch me in the face. But listen, man, I mean, the MCP program, the Master Collector program, is kind of the glue to making the digital, gamifying the digital collecting experience, right? And
Yeah.
so Vivi is not unaware that people want to see more with that. And they're very in tune with how to make that as best as possible as we continue to evolve. And so, even though there's a little bit of uncomfortability, like I want more, of course there's going to be more, but it's as you know, is that ready to release to the public without glitches, bugs? Will it be a smooth process for that new person that comes and experiences it, right? All those things have to check the list. Once that happens, it'll be available. So
Yeah.
it is coming though.
Yeah. And I have no doubt that it's coming. And, tech delays are inevitable, especially when you're doing things retroactively, right? And you're going back to the beginning and have to calculate everything that everyone's accrued over time. So there are bound to be some tech issues. I think that maybe something that the team could do better. And I know that you take why I like you is because you're always receptive to ideas and take things. So I think that's something that they could do a little better is just providing an explanation on the tech aspect of it and like, why it's not, what the difficulties are. Cause, a classic example of like delays is like, Cardano and like the blockchain and their smart contracts, they couldn't get them out for years. But, Charles Hoskinson would go out every month or so and explain exactly like where they were, what they accomplished, what is holding them up, how they're gonna try to fix it. And so I don't know if that would help a little if Mitch could, give a thread and just say, listen, this is what we've accomplished. This is what went wrong. This is how we're trying to fix it. No timeline, but at least then people see that, things are happening in the background because, I know things are happening and, a lot of people know things are happening, but then you got some who question.
Yeah, I think that's actually a great point that you made. Like one of the expectations in Web3, NFT space, blockchain, and whatnot, crypto, is the fact that everything's transparent. And
Yeah.
so, what people kind of want to see is the company relay that same trajectory with the things going on behind the scenes. So, I will say, like, obviously, the community updates we haven't made. I think last month we didn't make one because
Yeah.
we're trying to revamp the way that we're going to do that.
Yeah.
Because you have to understand too, the company is growing at a pretty rapid rate. There's new employees being added every day to start to hone in on very specific parts of the business. Whereas before there might have been or one person doing those three different things. So it's getting the positions are getting very defined and things are being worked on in quicker ways. And so that's one of the reasons why just in the last 2 to 3 months, now you don't see Vivi so much saying, hey, this is going to be released on this date. You just see, hey, update your app, right?
Mhm.
We want to get to a place more where we're talking less about timelines and we're just delivering the product to people, right? Hey, this is now available. And so I think that's one of the reasons why you don't necessarily see so much like, hey, this is where we went wrong, or this is what we just got finished. We're almost done. We just want to say to people, update the app. Now, I think one end of the spectrum, you have missed timelines. The other end of the spectrum, hey, there's not enough communication. How do you balance those two
Yeah.
out so you can effectively communicate and not set yourself up for a bunch of failures, right? And so I think Vivi, as things evolve, and we're still trying to figure that out, right? And so just give us some time. And I personally get really excited when I see an app update now, because something, it might be little, it might be major, changes, right? And as time goes on, with as many developers and engineers are on the project now, or in the business, right? Those updates are going to become better and better and better, because the development team that Mitch is leading is on a cadence, and that is extremely powerful for the further development of the app.
Yeah. And, I know a lot of people miss those AMAs from the early days because they were exciting. It was fun to hear. And early on, when you're developing a project, you really have to deliver the long-term vision and get that information out. I think the problem, obviously, in hindsight, was that a little over-promising, under-delivering in terms of timelines. But I do think that you can't do those monthly AMAs forever. And at a certain point, it's like there's nothing else to say, right? We all know what the vision is now. It's a matter of executing. So, I know that Alex said that they're likely stepping away from the community updates and revamping, I guess, the communication. Is that correct?
Yeah, we want to try to figure out a better way to do it. It's also trying to nail down Dan and David whenever they can find the time to get on those, because they're working around the clock on this business. Like, this is their baby, right? Like, they are collectors at heart. That's why, one of the reasons why that's the tagline, is because they are that, right? And so that's one of the reasons why so many people back this business, is because we see in real time, like, those are the people, these are kind of the people I want to be, right, as a collector. And so it's just trying to nail them down and coordinate schedules properly. But it's also just trying to find a better, more efficient way to communicate within the whole company, right? Because it's not just a little team now, it's a company. And so until we figure out how we can streamline those things, there might be some delays as the frequency of community updates. But like I said, the goal is to make things better as things evolve. So when we do finally figure out that process and release that, it's going to be better and more efficient than it was before. So,
yeah. You were in Twitter Spaces a couple of days ago, and I commend you for always getting on stage, even if it's a hostile environment. And this one was a bit of hostile, and you got on stage and you got yelled at by a couple people about their frustrations, and you took it. You took it and you talked through it, and you handled it well, I thought. So I commend you for that. That's got to be tough, right? To be the guy who, you weren't here for the things that people are frustrated about, right? So you weren't here back in the day. You came on board, and now you sometimes take the brunt of the frustration. That's got to be tough for you. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, man. I think I come from a place where I try to understand, like, we're human, right? We get frustrated about things. I got frustrated about something earlier with my son. It's like, it's just normal. People get frustrated. Maybe somebody just got some really bad news, and Twitter Spaces was the thing right in front of their face, and they just needed to blow off some steam. It's like, I try to be very slow to anger, right? Because I don't think anger mitigates the passion, or it just fuels more anger, right? When you say something back, you throw this, it's just a mess, right?
It escalates.
Yeah. The goal in having a conversation is to receive the anger, but try to find the root of where they're coming from, so you can actually understand why they might be angry, right?
Yeah.
And so asking the right questions, having good, productive conversations, even if maybe that other person on the other side isn't. Those are the ways that you're supposed to communicate with people. And so in a lot of ways, I look at it as part of my job, not just to go into the rooms where everybody's like, Vivi, Vivi, Vivi. Like, I love those rooms, and those people, that's my family, right?
Fun,
yeah. But I like also going into rooms where people are mad, they're pissed off, And it's like, I want to try to understand that too, because the better we can understand the whole picture, the better we can improve things in the future. And if we just avoid the negative and always go to the positive, we're never actually going to be aware of our blind spots, right? And so we have to be humble enough to go and listen to all perspectives, and that's something that I will always try and do my best to do, because I just think that's the right thing to do.
Yeah. I think there are, a lot of people who are just happy to collect on Vivi and they love the experience and they're just, here for the fun of it. There are other people, a subset, I guess, who are more of like a Web3 crowd and feel that Vivi kind of leveraged like Web3 principles and are in like the Web3 space, but haven't fully adhered to, the principles and the ideology or whatever of Web3. So like things like, Dumbo Gate, when the collectible was given out and then taken back, and like small things like an addition being added to like the Vivi logo. How does the company, I guess, like what's it like, if you any insight to like on the inside? Is there like someone who says, wait, that's like, people are going to get pissed about that because, you can't, this is Web3 and you can't do that.
Yeah, sometimes you have to make decisions on the fly just because of how fast paced everything is, right? If you don't do that, sometimes the outcome could be worse. But then at the same time, there's always a conversation to try and understand what can be the best route to take, right? Not necessarily what's the right or wrong answer, what's the wise answer, right? Because that's very important. Maybe with both decisions you make, you're screwed. Which one is going to be less fallout, right? For instance, with the Dumbo, right?
Yeah.
We were screwed with that. Like that was just a misstep. Which one is going to have less repercussion? Which one is wiser for the customer on the other side who had that experience? That's the thing you have to calculate. With the Vivi logo minting, like I'm personally in the camp of once something's minted, to never have its size increase or decrease. So do I think that could have been handled better? Yes. But in the same sense, it is the Vivi logo. It's kind of Vivi's IP. They were testing out the waitlist drop with it. And so there you do have to also look at that in context, right? A lot of people take things out of context. And so, yeah, I mean, you have to take each instance, you have to look at it uniquely. There's no manual, right? It's just like having a baby. There's no manual. Each kid is different. You have to learn who they are. You have to understand them. That's what Vivi does in these situations. They try to look at who's on the other side, or who. I just saw that pop up in the corner, and it made me think, who's on the other side?
Money throwing you a curveball.
Yeah. You have to look at who's on the other side, and you have to understand what is important to them, have a conversation, and try to fix the problem. So it's about wisdom. It's not necessarily about right or wrong.
Yeah, and I do understand that there are situations that are tricky, and no matter what happens, you're going to piss people off, right? The team's going to piss people off. Sometimes it seems like they make a couple head-scratching decisions, but again, nobody's perfect, and like you said, we're all, they're doing this for the first time also. What do you say to people who like, that crowd? Like, how do you deal with those people who are upset about those Web3 principles being, I guess, broken?
I listen to them, and I don't tell them that they're wrong for being mad. Like if you're like, there are just as much as the people that are outside the space can push the space forward by coming in and learning. The crypto people, the NFT people, the blockchain people, they're pushing the space forward and bringing credibility for why it needs to exist. And so when those people get frustrated, I think you have to have a conversation. You have to understand where they're coming from, listen to them, absorb the information, take it back and see how it can be built into the product. Sometimes it can't, sometimes it can. If it can, how do you make that the best possible outcome for people who voice that concern, right? And so, that sounds probably like a bunch of political jargon, but there's nothing more you can. Sometimes there will be a fix, sometimes there won't, and you got to just move forward. People are going to be upset. I understand that. But I would never go into a space and say, you're stupid or you're wrong. Like, I
Yeah.
like to listen to people because I know Vivi makes mistakes at times and they deserve to be heard.
Yeah. How do you feel about, competitors now coming out? Vivi has had the top spot, still has the top spot in this whole space. Now you got like companies like Cryptoys coming out, McFarlane. They're kind of trying to leverage that Web3, they're going to go for, they're going to find the weakness in Vivi and try to exploit it, right? And they're going to tout that we have interoperability, we have, all these things, and like their XP system is up on McFarlane. So how do you guys feel about that competition now coming into the scene? Do
Oh,
you
I,
welcome
I,
it, or are you like,
oh, I love it, man. It's the best possible thing that could ever happen. I get super excited seeing all these other companies popping up and growing because one, that tells me venture capital's coming into the space and they're investing their money into growing companies in the space. That means they believe there's going to be a return on their investment, and there's value in it. The other reason that I love that these companies are popping up is because it's creating competition. And competition always creates pressure, and pressure always makes you move either faster or more efficiently. It forces you to, right? Because you have to keep up. And so I think one of the things I said yesterday in a tweet was just kind of like when Vivi started, there was no path. Everyone was in the woods. There was no path. Vivi's like with a hat, with a hacksaw, just getting rid of the weaves, paving the path, right? And now companies can have, a little bit of a trajectory to know where to go, but
yeah,
can build on top of what Vivi's already created. Now, when I see the competition pop up, I get super excited because now Vivi can see what's being done, what's attractive, and now they can absorb some of that and build it into a future of the product. And so um, I don't get scared of competition. I get excited for it. It's powerful. It's good for the space as a whole.
for sure. I always say when you always run faster when someone's running behind you, and um, your people produce their best when there's someone that they're up against. So it's real. I think it's dope to see these other, companies come forward. And I saw that David took a picture with Todd at
Yeah.
San Diego Comic-Con. He must have been stoked because I'm sure he's a fan of Todd.
Yeah, I mean, I just learned this when I was there. Like, I guess Todd is the second most popular artist in the entire world, right? Todd McFarlane. So, I mean, he has massive influence. What McFarlane Toys just did, I think, is fantastic.
Yeah,
How he designed the from start to finish. There was a signature on it. Like, I guess it's fully interoperable. That's a great thing. I applaud them for rolling that out and giving people that collector experience because the better experiences people can have in this industry, that is going to spread like wildfire to the people who don't know about it, right? And more
yeah.
people are going to come in, they're going to dabble here, they're going to dabble there, and it's better for everybody.
What do you think the future of the digital space is? Like, do you think that there's one winner? Or do you think that there are multiple winners that just kind of occupy different spaces?
Um, I guess I look at it kind of like the car market, right? Digital collectibles are going to be, they just make too much sense not to stay with us long into the future. It just makes too much sense to have digital collectibles, whether you pair them with the physicals or you just have a collection on your phone that you carry with you anywhere you go. That just makes too much sense. And so I see a lot of different companies starting to pop up and some people will just be committed to Vivi, some people will just be committed to Cryptoys, some people will just be committed to this platform, but then you also will have the crossover effect, right? Like Vivi's dropping something I really like, let me go on there. Cryptoys is dropping something I really like, let me go on there, and then you just have this crossover. So um what will happen from that I don't know, right? um but I do know that the companies who execute well and take these opportunities to learn and build better instead of getting worried or defensive or trying to, rat around, like that's going to make you the winner in the long term. So you can't be afraid of competition. You have to build better because of it.
Yeah, and I think with these other companies sprouting up, it kind of legitimizes the whole space, and in doing so, legitimizes Vivi's place in this space, right? It puts things into context, I guess. And as much as I am over it, and I've been tweeting about being. I got like I minted like 5 Todd McFarlanes today over on McFarlane.
Dude, I saw you got a number 12.
Number 12 signed.
Let's
Oh,
go.
I was so stoked.
That's epic, dude.
Yeah, so I'm over there and I'm enjoying it, and I love it for some of those reasons, right? I love seeing those collectibles in my MetaMask wallet. I like a lot of the aspects of it. I can, click on the history of the collectible and everything is there. So I like that. Also diving deep into, McFarlane, it reminds me of some of the things that people are now dismissive of Vivi, that they, like for instance, the East. Ah, nice.
That's my poodle.
Vivi has made it so that they can onboard people so easily. You know what I mean? And we take that for granted. And everyone thinks that, Web3 is where it's at. And, I think that it is where it's at for people who are Web3, and that's where they want to be. But I think that for everyday people who don't know what a MetaMask wallet is and don't understand the difference between the ETH mainnet and the Matic mainnet, that Vivi has made it so easy. And it's easy for people to dwell on, and, the delays and the things that, the people are rightfully frustrated by some things. But at the same time, we shouldn't be dismissive of what Vivi has done right, because they've done a lot right.
Yeah, I mean, just human nature is so easy to latch on to the negativity, right? Like it's always easier to see what isn't going right than is to like kind of appreciate what is. So that's just human nature, and that'll always be there. It's not something you can just get rid of. I think what's important too is like Vivi's dealing with a lot of different IPs, right? With Bat Cows, with McFarlane, like they're honing in on one specific IP. And so it's easier to be more kind of free form with it and do with it what you want, right? Because you own it. It is yours, right? And so Vivi has a bigger challenge and kind of like a hill to climb with trying to figure out how to do that with all their different IPs. And so that's something that people have to consider, that it's just naturally, because of that, going to take longer to implement these different types of functions that people want. And I mean, that's been the conversation for a while. And where we're at right now, that still has to kind of be the conversation. But the other cool thing that Vivi has created, and I was thinking about this when I came home from the SDCC trip, was when I was watching and interacting with people on the floor and we were introducing them to the app, I was thinking to myself, what if I told them, hey, you have to go to this website. Okay, wait, now download MetaMask. Okay, now get your seed phrase. Okay, make sure you put that seed phrase in your notes and always protect it, because if you lose it, you lose your wallet forever. So just make sure you have that, right? Okay, now go back. Okay, get some Matic so you can. It's easy. Just put in. Like
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of it this way, and then you have Vivi, right? Somebody comes over, they scan the QR code, download the app, and the collectible airdrop to them right away, and they could start collecting. They put gems in, and they're good. So the onboarding process in real time, I witnessed, like there's still a massive barrier to entry for the outside world for full on Web3 interoperable type of assets. Vivi is in a very unique space, because if they can figure out how to communicate their message and their vision properly to the masses, there's not going to be that heavy barrier to entry because you don't have to do that, at least right now. And so I look at that as a major win, not necessarily a major step backwards.
Yeah. And now there are options, right? So for people who really, really prefer that Web3 experience, and are crypto literate, and so the first time you do, like, it's like kind of like when you buy Omi the first time, it's like you go through all these steps and you have to like there's a learning curve. And once you figure it out, it's not so hard. But for everyday people, it's not so easy. But now the people who want that have an option for it. And perhaps they go over there. And once they see that, wow, Vivi is now making progress. Oh, now we got MCP. Now we can spend our points. Now the Viviverse is out. Let me go back there, and they'll circle back. And so, it's a dynamic space, and, people now can flow through it however they will.
Yeah, I think it's great that people now have like that fully interoperable experience over there with some of the IPs that they love. Like that's a great thing, right? And so, like I said, there's going to be like crossover, right? People
Yeah.
are going to go there, they're going to come back. I mean, that's just going to be the natural ebb and flow. I think at the end of the day, excuse me, Vivi just has to keep executing. Less timelines. Hey, go update your app. Hey,
Yeah.
go update your app.
Yeah. Shout out to SoCal. Thanks for that super chat. 64 days till Q4, 111 days till Anaheim DCon. Ryan, if you loved San Diego Comic-Con, I'm sure you're going to love DCon. I was there last year. I met SoCal. A bunch of people were there. And it's a smaller venue, obviously, than San Diego Comic-Con. And Vivi really stands out there because they're just like small artists and whatnot. And it seems like Vivi attracts such a big crowd. So it's so cool.
Yeah, I can't wait to meet everybody there. I heard from multiple people like the decon experience is a lot better when it comes to Vivi fam, right? And so I'm pretty psyched to meet everybody at the decon, the upcoming decon, because I've heard nothing but awesome things. And dude, I love people, man. Like if I've talked to you on Spaces or I've met you before on Twitter or whatever, had a chat, like dude, I'll come up and like give you a hug, man. I'm all about it. Some people don't like that, so you can push me away, but I'm all about it.
So you heard that, everyone here. Free hugs at DCon. You mentioned interoperability before, and that's something that people in Vivi have wanted. Is that still on the table there, or can we expect that to happen at some point, to your knowledge?
Yeah, so the beautiful thing is that Vivi has recently, and you saw it in an article, I think it was released about a month ago, that
Mhm.
Vivi has onboarded an actual like Web3 team, right? And so what that's going to do once they figure out their cadence and ways in which to incorporate these different features and functions, and just be more literate in that area of the space, that's going to allow Vivi to make a lot better educated decisions about how to consider these different elements to incorporate into the app. And so I can't give like any timelines like that right now. The things that are right in front of us is making sure payout is functioning correctly for everybody. Making sure we're getting into that next phase of MCP, and then getting that Viviverse rolled out. Like those are our three really like primary goals, on top of a bunch of other things. But that conversation will never be off the table. It's just what does it look like to implement it with all these different IPs? And you
Yeah.
have to have conversations with so many different people that all agree, and so that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like DC is open to it. They're on a number of different platforms. There have been like concerns. I'm in some spaces, and people say that if Vivi NFTs are made interoperable, that they'd have to be reminted, and then would kind of like the data on the blockchain would change. I don't know if you have technical knowledge of that, but is that a
So
legitimate concern?
I don't know. I wouldn't say it's a concern, but it is important for people to understand like the way things are minted, because early on, Vivi minted their products on Go Chain, right?
Right.
Which wasn't necessarily like a extremely popular chain, but it was still minted there.
Yeah.
And then now it's on Ethereum layer two Immutable X. But the way in which the minting happens in order to make it sustainable, and carbon neutral is it's done through what's called a ZK rollup, which it collects a bunch of data, compresses it, and now like it has a file of all these different mints in it, right?
Mhm.
But it's not necessarily, it didn't go through a gas fee to be minted on the Ethereum blockchain, but there's information there that it was minted on Immutable X, that if you want to pay the gas fee and put it on layer one, that you would be able to do that. So that's how it kind of is, to my understanding. That might not be perfectly correct,
Mm.
but that's how a ZK rollup functions. And so, and that's why Vivi can call their collectibles carbon neutral, right? And that's why we can very efficiently mint millions of collectibles
Yeah.
in the way we do. So I think that's very important for the future, because when you are minting, um, for instance, like the Bitcoin blockchain accrues tons of energy. I
Yeah.
mean, it is insane, the setup, the rig you have to have in order to do mining on the Bitcoin blockchain. Like it is an energy suck. Ethereum's better, but it's not the ultimate. It's not the best, right? So far, from what I see, Immutable X has solved a lot of these energy issues with the ZK rollup function, and so I think for the time being, the way Vivi's doing it is really efficient. It's still, you can look at everything on a Mutascan, which calculates the history and the data of these different collectibles. Would we like to see more there? Of course, but we'll get there.
Yeah. A couple questions about upcoming events, and any idea about London Decon or being in the Marvel booth in New York?
I don't think any of those things are off the table. I think it's just a matter of getting the things in place to make it work. So I don't know if we're going to be at those yet, but they're not off the table.
Yeah. I see David talking about, or like you see hints of like now penetrating the Asia market, the localization in the app, right? Different languages. Can tell us about that? Like any insight into the Alibaba thing? Is that just the web service, or is it more?
Yeah, I'm not fully tuned into that aspect,
Hmm.
but I do know that the Asian market um, is massive in comparison to the US market.
Yeah.
Like it in a way blows it away with digital collectibles, NFTs, block, like it's light years ahead, and there's more people just in it, right? And so the fact that localization is now in the app, and people from these different countries can come in and start to collect in their language, I think we really underestimate the impact that that's going to have when David and Dan and some of the different people that are presenting the app in these countries, now their ability to leverage that to sell the features and the functions of the app to different you know different partners and whatnot. Like
Hmm.
that's a huge selling point. So that's going to allow different licensors to come in and whatnot. I think the other cool thing about the Alibaba is, it's a web service that I don't even know if I don't. Let's put it this way: I don't know enough to talk about it, so I'm just going to leave it.
Yeah.
The Alibaba thing is very important, though. That's what I'll say. It's
Cool.
extremely important.
Very nice. Um, Mike had a comment on, we got the Astro Boy drop. He wanted me to communicate this as a way to make drops even more exciting. Perhaps randomized airdrops. For example, for Astro Boy, let's say there's 3,000 mints, 5 random people get airdropped his famous red boots, or even like
Ah,
little variations in there. I like the idea of like a one of one within the entire set. Um,
yes.
and he even says like, or even color, 10 people get red boots, 5 get black boots. So I like that idea of, and that's like how it is in sports cards. You buy like a pack of cards and you could get like the red variation or like a one of 10 or even a one of one. and it kind of makes the whole experience a little more exciting, especially if you hit.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually, this was one of the things that somebody brought up in a space too. They were talking about like it would be really cool for whenever you go for the drop, like if there's if there's a one of one that you could
Yeah.
potentially mint within that blind box, right? And if you were to get that, that would be the only one in the entire collection. Um, I don't see why that doesn't. That to me, right, makes sense to have that
Yeah.
eventually because when you open a pack of Pokemon cards and you get a holographic, Charizard,
Yeah.
like that is an insane experience that you never want to let go of, right? Why not mimic that and recreate that through Vivi, right? And so I'm not saying that's coming, but as a community member, it makes sense to me, and I think it is something that should be a part of the drop experience.
Yeah. Green Goblin asks, any plans to your knowledge of a paid subscription based perk, which is also, I think, something that's pretty cool for people, the irregular users, and it might, retain them if they get like a little discount or something or an edge.
Yeah, I think there will be something to that extent in the Veve'S, essentially where Pokemon confirmed. You gotta love it, man. I think there will be something to the extent of that in the Viviverse where you're going to pay a small fee and it'll be like a premium type of account. I can't confirm that, but I believe that was something that was um, communicated. And like I said, to the last point, something like that just makes sense, right?
Mhm.
It's with Twitter. I pay $11 a month. I get a check mark next to my name. I can edit my tweets for a certain amount of time. I can delete, I can do different things.
Yeah.
Same idea. Maybe if I pay a little bit of money per month, it unlocks different features for me and I can do more because of that, right? And so that would only make sense to me.
Yeah, and on Vivi's end, it just creates like sticky revenue where people
Hmm.
are, committed, making a commitment to pay a certain amount a month, and you can bake that in to, future revenue projections or whatever.
Yes, yes.
So pretty dope. Also excited about, I guess as a fan, different verticals. How do you feel about the different verticals? They had mentioned possibly what is there verticals in by Q4 or whatever on sports. I know David has mentioned music. Um, what are your as a fan? What do you want to see in terms of new verticals?
Um, I would love to see sports stuff.
Yeah,
So I think sports is a massive industry for collecting, sports card collectors, bobbleheads, like all those different types of things. I would love to see something like that, where you can actually collect different items from your favorite teams, or you can collect different sports cards or something of that nature in digital format. I don't know what that would look like.
yeah,
But with VVC, the vision is so big. The vision is so big that none of it is off the table, right? And so when we think about music maybe coming to the app or sports coming to the app or whatnot, they're not just like saying these things off a whim. Like these are actively being sought after. So um, you know, yeah, I wish I could share some stuff that's in the queue, but I can't. So because
yeah.
I'd get sued. So
All good. I'm sure. I mean, if you just look at what Vivi has done in terms of bringing like the depth and like the breadth of all the different forms of IP, from nostalgic stuff to like from like Rambo and RoboCop from the 80s to like the big brands, and then like US Postal Service and Lamborghini and cars. It only makes sense that eventually they're going to keep on branching out to include those things. Superstar mentions, I don't remember this, MCP Pro. Is that a paid service?
yeah, I'm
Oh,
not
is that
sure.
part of that's part of the program?
I
Or you,
think that's what I was kind of alluding to before when I was bringing up the VVverse. When you pay so much money, you get on access to more features. So I guess that will be like the MCP Pro type of feature.
yeah. Shout out to Kenobi for that super chat. Appreciate you.
Kenobi, what is up?
Yeah. Um, on the Omi side of things, right? They have a lot. That's like a whole other subset of people. Um, any updates there in terms of getting things done? I know they have the blockchain team in place working on things. And I know you're not
Yeah,
the token manager.
obviously that's one of the reasons that that team was hired, right? Was to figure out the ways in which it makes sense to incorporate that more. Um, it's obviously still being worked on every day. It's definitely not talked about as much, but it's always side by side with Vivi in different ways. And so there's just a lot of things within Vivi that need the main focus right now because of the conversations with licensors, building the Viviverse, making sure MCP is proper and it functions properly to make that experience as best as it can be. Those are like the big priorities right now, and then how to merge that OMI into the MCP program will be kind of like that next phase. I don't have detailed info on that just because I'm not.
Right, on that side of it.
Yeah, I'm not on that side, so I shouldn't speak on it. But I will reassure everybody that it's very important to the company to make that excel.
Yeah. Got a question here about I'm seeing some people talk about points not recalculating or calculating properly. Is there, a form to fill out, or could there be a form to fill out for people to, get that handled or taken care of, or is maybe Mitch is aware of it and he's working on it in the background?
Yeah, so if you feel that your points are not correct, what you need to do is go fill out a support ticket on the site, right? Submit a support ticket, detail the issue you're having, and detail what you think your points are supposed to be. Make the case for that, present that, so they can cross reference why they might be wrong, and then they'll solve the issue.
All right, so that's good information for everyone. In the event that you feel like your points are miscalculated.
Yeah,
Uh,
because there could be miscalculations, right? I mean, you're talking about thousands of collectibles for some people that need to be calculated on a daily basis. So, if you feel that your points are wrong, just make sure you present like what your points should be, so they can cross-reference, verify that, and then they'll help you with it.
yeah, this question is from Jomi. We'd like to hear your opinion on would it be possible in the future to continue to reward collectors who hold collectibles instead of flippers rewarding? I guess that would be, fine tuning the MCP program to maybe, I don't know. I forget. It's been a while since I read the article, but I don't know that if, maybe if like you hold a collectible for a certain amount of time, it increases the points or whatever, or something like that.
Yeah, so MCP is the kind of the caveat designed to reward collectors, right? So we have the point calculations now. You're accruing points, and eventually into phase two, you'll be able to spend those points on different assets, and maybe you really want to go for a drop and you want to have the best chance of landing it. Maybe you buy another waitlist spot, whatever it may be. That is one of the ways in which you're going to see collectors rewarded in a more tangible way, right? Than rather than just seeing their collector rank or as many points as they have. You're actually now going to be able to tangibly like have advantages within the app. So that's one of the ways collectors are rewarded. And then I don't think Vivi gets enough credit for some of the things they've done in the past, right? So like there has been really, really rare pieces airdropped to set holders out of the blue that
Yeah.
weren't even talked about. We're able to do that with people with smaller artists and things of that
Yeah.
nature, where we don't have to go through all the loopholes with the licensors, right? So I guess my advice or something that I would consider when I'm collecting is knowing Vivi doesn't have to go through all those things. try to find some maybe independent artists on the platform that you really love and that you want to learn more about. And maybe you start collecting some of those pieces, right? Because they have a much better chance of having, you know, some type of rewards in the future. I'm not saying anything specifically, but based on what has already happened in the Vivi app, that is what makes sense to me from what I've seen.
Yeah. Biscuit said that she tried filling out the form. They said give it a few weeks to be fixed, and it's been since May 5th. Should she go fill out the form again, in your opinion, or?
So for Biscuits, if you filled out the form, there hasn't been a response, what I would do is file a support ticket to tell them this has not been responded to. Let them know what your points should be as opposed to what they are now, so they can cross-reference and correct them if it was an error. And if it wasn't, just to have that conversation and to kind of re-ping them, because it's people are still human. Things fall through the cracks. I would just say submit a support ticket and make sure you indicate what you think your points are supposed to be.
Yeah. And it is a lot to keep track of. And, you know, I'm seeing it. It's easy to say like that it should be easy to do. But, you know, even on like the McFarland side with the drop, there were people who should have been on the allow list that they didn't get in. And these things happen.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there was a problem. There was a problem with me today. Like, I'm a back cow holder, love back cows. Think it's an awesome project, really cool. And I couldn't get into it because it was just an error. So there's different things that just happen.
You tried to go for that drop today?
Yeah, of course. And but it's just, yeah, I know, I'm a trader. No, dude, I like to support other businesses, sure. Right? That's what it's all about. That's how you build community. Yeah. But and you celebrate it, right? He's an artist that designed the piece. It's not just about McFarlane Toys. It's about Todd McFarlane himself, right? Yeah, he's one of the most favorable names on the Vivi platform. Why in the world would I neglect celebrating that artist because of some supposed like competition? That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, 100%. I love that attitude, and I love to see that and hear that. And just, you know, the success, you know, of the Todd brand over there, just I think accentuates the success of Todd and makes it stand out even more in Vivi.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It brings it full circle.
Yeah, love to see it and hear it. Kenobi says, curious to see how Ryan has seen Vivi has changed internally since he joined. Like, so in terms of new hires, departments, better staff turnover, new projects, etc. Someone else had asked if you know like how big the staff is now.
Yeah, so it's right around 100 people, and that is up from probably one of the last project demos I was on. There was about 70 in there. So, I mean, it's pretty rapid rate that Vivi's hiring people, onboarding new managers and people to oversee different levels of the product. And so, like I said, this is only beneficial to all the people that use Vivi because it's going to give them faster turnaround times for the things that they really want to see.
Yeah. So you said around 70 to your knowledge?
It's getting closer to 100.
Wow. That's a lot. Because back when it started, I remember Reese saying that it was basically like him, Dan, and David doing everything.
Yeah, Dan and David this was their baby, right? Like they were nurturing it, and they had their hands in a lot of things, and right. And I will say to that point, it's good that you brought that up because it's important for us to also realize, like early on, I think we were like really spoiled in being able to just like casually engage with them in a Twitter space. And not to say that they don't want to do those things, but now they've gone to working in a business that they're creating to working on a business that they're creating, managing a lot of people. And that is a completely different responsibility there doing that than there was earlier whenever they could just like come into a space off a whim or something like that, right? And so things have radically changed, and we have to have some grace for the ways in which they have to evolve to effectively now manage the people that are nurturing their baby, right?
Yeah, for sure. Good point. Just to address this, asking about the OMI token. We talked about this a little earlier, and Ryan did squash those rumors. They do care about the token. They are working about it. They do have the blockchain team in place.
Yes, it's an extremely important part of the business. It always will be.
Yeah. And DMs inside the Vivi app and all these things, I'm sure, eventually happen. But like you said, I think it's prioritizing things, right? And so right now, the big ticket items are MCP, Viviverse, payout for everyone. And then some of these smaller things get tackled along the way, like the ability to DM.
Yeah. I think, one of the things that I see often with people is like, can I make an offer on a collectible or things of that
Yeah.
nature, right? Like that's part of the collector experience. Maybe I don't want to buy it at that price. Maybe I want to offer 20% more than that price, right? Or maybe I want to, offer something a little bit underneath and hey, that person will accept that, right? It's like that's a part of the collector experience. So, seeing things like that coming into the app and being developed as a way to enhance that collector experience are all things that are part of the future of Vivi. It's just you have to get those big ticket items out of the way, get them off the plate, and then you go for the next round of awesome features to come, right? So we got to get these initial things squashed and out of the way, and then we're gonna keep rolling.
Yeah. Transfers also, I think a lot of people want transfers. And I don't know if that's, I think, they're worried about then laundering or other possible things in terms of transfers. I hope that there's no, that comes back. 'Cause that's part of ownership is like the ability to transfer to someone.
Yeah, I think one of the it's hard because no matter what, you're always going to fight bots, right? I mean, there were bots that got today's McFarlane drop. There were bots that got today's DC Backhouse drop. There were bots that got today's Vivi drop, right? So you always have to fight them. I think one of the big reasons those aren't back is because there needs to be consideration on what that's going to look like, and also abiding by different anti-money laundering laws and whatnot. Like that's a huge part of this, just from a legal perspective. And so it's not as simple as like just flipping the switch back on. There's a lot of considerations for having that take place.
And it's also important to note that Vivi's not a decentralized marketplace, right? It's centralized. So they have some culpability there, I guess, if things take place that shouldn't take place.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a very strict policies on that, and it could be detrimental if something were to go wrong. So,
yeah. And what are you excited about in the whole space? Apple Vision Pro is going to be out of the price range for it's like $3,000. I think that first
3,500, man.
500. I really, really want one, but
dude. All right, so the Apple Vision Pro has, for the first time in my life, made me look at this thing right here. This is old news. I think, in 5 to 10 years, everybody's going to have an Apple Vision Pro. The price point won't be as high. It'll be more accessible, and it'll just be a normal way to communicate. And I think one of the coolest things about it is that is where you really start to see this digital collectible experience take off. Because imagine now you can go into the Veve'S through those puppies and start to create an augmented experience in real time right in your living room, right? And so I can meet you. We could have this chat in the Veve'S through our goggles. I could give you a handshake. Maybe down the road there's haptics involved where I can actually feel your hand. That's the type of stuff that excites me. One of the most exciting things with the Apple Vision Pro, and this is just like my theory, and it makes too much sense for them not to do it, in my opinion, is Apple actually starts to buy space in stadiums, and they start to set up cameras where if you were to subscribe to, let's say, NFL Network, and Apple Vision Pro was partnered with NFL Network, and Apple had different camera views within the stadium, right? And if I was a subscriber to NFL Network and I had the Apple Vision Pro, I could cue in and watch the game from those different camera angles that not everybody would have access to. I think that's going to be one of the coolest things that we could possibly ever imagine happen with this new technology.
Yeah, it's so dope and crazy to think about what the world is going to look like. You know, when you're young, you see your parents and they have a hard time with like technology and everything. They seem so outdated. And then you realize that happens to you. You know what I mean? Like, and it's going to happen to my kids who grew up with, like you said, they grew up with iPhones, and now their kids are going to be walking around with, you know, glasses, and everything's the map is going to be like right in front of them, and it's going to be absolutely crazy. And it's good to be involved with, you know, a company that's able to leverage some of that.
Yeah, I mean, when Vivi was born, they were looking 25 years into the future, because they saw it's not necessarily just virtual reality, it's augmented reality that is the game changer in the next generation.
Yeah.
And so they leveraged that technology, built really an industry out of it, and now they get to kind of like make things better along the way, make that experience better. So they have proof of concept, they've established an audience, they've established an industry. Now they get to grow in it and build better. And so technology like this coming out only brings more people into the space and makes it more real for them to understand why people would be doing it in the first place.
Yeah, 100%. They definitely have that proof of concept. Now they're in that scaling phase, which has been a little difficult. They've had some bumps, but it is promising to see that, you know, during a bear market when other companies are scaling back and other projects are scaling back because of lack of, you know, money in the space, that they continue to, you know, add on people and hire people and build out the team so that hopefully they can get these things done. And maybe down the line, they keep doing that and they partner with, you know, gaming companies that are able to gamify some of this stuff in the Veve'S, that would totally make it a sticky platform.
Absolutely, man. I couldn't agree more. Also, just want to mention, I do have a meeting at 3:30 Eastern.
Okay. We'll cut it short in like 5 minutes or so.
Cool. Perfect. Yeah. Let's take all the time we can.
All right. SoCal's calling you out here. That's revisionist history. Now not what community was told in the early days.
What was?
Yeah. What was that, SoCal? We don't hold punches here.
Yeah. Bring the heat, man.
Bring it. Yeah, SoCal. Feel free to type that in there. And I guess that's part of that comes with the territory of what you have to deal with, right? Is people calling out the things that have been promised and not quite delivered.
Yeah. I'm not naive to the missed timelines, the overzealous, explanations for things coming. But at the end of the day, Vivi has a group of very passionate people behind it. They're very dedicated people. They are the product in a lot of ways. Like they live by it, right? They put their money where their mouth is. And so I wouldn't expect for passionate, creative people to not put out overzealous things sometimes, because that mind does not work necessarily organizationally, right? That mind looks at just the excitement of the future and can be overzealous about things at times. And so if that has happened in the past, apologies. Like we've seen it, we know it's there. But right now, we can only do we only have what's right in front of us.
Yeah.
And the proof is in the pudding for me. Vivi is building a team, and they're building a company, and that company is going to deliver results.
Yeah. Very nice. And yeah, and super duper, Hank, we did talk about Omi a little earlier. It's being worked on in the background. I do have faith that they're going to come through on Omi's side. It doesn't make sense for them not to. Just sometimes things don't happen in the timelines that we expect. And, you know, to your point, Ryan, it's fair to have frustrations and be disappointed that some things didn't happen. For me, in my perspective, I always bottom line things. And when I bottom line Vivi, I see that they have a product that connects with people and that resonates. And if they are able to scale out and do what they said that they were going to do, then everything's going to be, better than okay. So thank you for coming on. It was a pleasure to talk to you and to chat with you and to get you to answer some questions. Do it again sometime.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. I would love to come back on, man. Like I said earlier in the show, I follow you on Twitter. I've been in spaces with you, and I think you have an awesome, balanced, very real, pragmatic approach to a lot of this. But you also, in the back of your mind, aren't just thinking short term. There's a
Yep.
lot of knee jerk, impulsive reactions in this ecosystem a lot of times, and I definitely don't feel that from you, man. I think you're a really good positive voice in this community, and I would encourage you, man, keep sharing what you actually believe, even if it isn't always positive, because people will get value from it and they'll appreciate it. So I appreciate you having me on, man.
Thanks, brother. And maybe if I see you at DCOM one day, we'll share a hug.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm all for it, brother. I'm all for it.
Thanks to everyone in the chat. Appreciate you all coming through, chatting with us. We'll do it again sometime. Ryan, I'll catch you another time. Peace out.
Peace, brother.